Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Messenger. In the last part, we took care of the Riviera Turquoise, and got ourselves a little Firefly buddy in the process, who immediately helped us by purifying the Queen of Quills into the monk she once was. And now we're back in Glacial Peak because, first off, there's some power seals we still haven't gotten here, and our next main objective is here, for the music note that I am currently working on, at least. Technically speaking, two of them are here, but I can't do one until I do the thing in the catacombs I haven't done yet. Now can I, for people who played the game before? Admittedly, there probably are more efficient ways to go through the game than the one music note per at a time thing that I'm doing here, where you can get certain things done in certain orders. I just didn't, because for the structure of this game, I felt this was an appropriate way to handle things. It's one thing if it's like an Ori game or Metroid where I'm constantly backtracking and therefore might need to speed up or do multiple things along the way, but for this game structure, I feel like I can do this without much problem. The Glacial Peak in 16-bit has seen a couple of changes, namely some accessibility problems with later on. You're going to see some here as we move fast forward through this particular section. One of the largest changes is actually something I misspoke about back during, I believe it was the Cloud Ruins? When I was talking about the Easter egg. No, I think this was actually the Underworld. When I was talking about the Easter eggs for the various shopkeeper stories. One of them is only in the 16-bit version of this particular area, and it's in the room with the giant time crystal shard about halfway up. If you looked in the bottom right, you can see the frozen parents from that one shopkeeper story frozen in the ice. I honestly don't know why they decided to put in the shopkeeper Easter eggs, but they're cool all the same because it adds some amount of depth to the world, I suppose. Plus, visually speaking, every single one of them does look really cool. In fact, I think the last part, I completely forgot to mention this, or was this during when I did the second music note I did with the Barma'Thazel? I forget. In one of the rooms with the power seals, I believe, is where the mattress with the... What the hell? Manfred! What happened? Hey, buddy. It's a long and embarrassing story. The Elemental Skylands are in danger. I need your help. The Elemental Skylands? Yeah, they regulate the climate in this little world of ours. If we don't take care of it soon, you'll find the demon curse to be the least of your concerns. Okay, I'll try to find some help. I'll be here. Dragons are probably cold-blooded, so I should take care of that now. Thankfully, help is relatively close by. We just need to visit that exact same room while in the past. And thankfully they put a time warp not even 5 feet away. It would have been really annoying if it was like 6 rooms away either direction, but 2 rooms, that's fine. And of course, there's a reason I did things in this order. So, did you talk to the prophet? Yes, it seems you have a real shot at breaking the curse on our world. So you used to be a messenger too? Indeed. My power was to travel back to the past, whereas you, it seems, can travel to the future. And if the prophet is right, you'll be needing this to save a friend. Farewell, ninja. We're all counting on you. Okay, so I understand the railroading thing of you need to do this to do that. But why could she break that, but my sword can't? Is she fire elemental? I can believe that. Still, I hope you weren't frozen there long, Manfred. That's a cruel fate you got there, buddy. That's it. Feels great to be able to move again. I bet. Yeah, freedom's where it's at. Alright, we have the environment to save. Are you ready to go to the Elemental Skylands? Sure am. Okay, let's do this. And time for things to be a little bit different. How different? Well, you know how Kirby does a thing every single game? It's time to do that thing for this game. So I'm not gonna lie to you, buddy, this is bad. What's going on? It seems like the Demon King managed to corrupt the Clockwork Concierge. The Clockwork Concierge? A big robot that tends to this place. He's a butler superstar. I can't wait to meet him. Anyway, I was going to handle this myself, but the Skylanders make the robot invincible. Where do I come in? We'll drop you on each of the Skylands so you can disable the shield generators. Then together we'll see how big of a punch the Clockwork Concierge packs. Alright, enemies ahead. Mash X to fire. You can also charge a big one. So now we're in a Gradius space shooter. The enemies aren't that big of a threat. There's only really one type that I can consider annoying, and it's cannons that don't really... It's kind of hard to pick out, but at the same time, also really suck at aiming. The biggest threat's honestly running into the terrain, because that does damage you. I'm a bit iffy on where the hitbox is for this. I think the hitbox is the ninja, not so much Manfred, though. I will say this place is good for one thing, though. Alright, mid to the Air Skyland. I'll get you after you disable the shield generator. Good luck. Alright. The shooting sections are great for time shards. Alright, let's have a chat, shopkeeper. So about the current area. Congratulations, you're the first messenger to venture into the Elemental Skylands. Any idea what the deal is out there? From what I heard, the Skylands regulate the climate. And there's a big robot in charge called the Clockwork Concierge. Oh yeah? And who told you that? A talking sky server called Manfred. Okay. It's true! Of course it is. On an unrelated note, there's less oxygen at high altitude, so you might want to be careful. Rude. Very rude. Blurry visions are forcing themselves into focus. What's happening with the orb? Wait, did you see something in there? Well, it was blurry. Uh-oh. What? Well, the demons are not only fighting us across time, but across space, too. You mean parallel universes? Precisely. The orb, amongst other things, warns us of alternate timelines where the demons are about to win. And if that happens, these events could overwrite our own reality. How does that make sense? Oh, it doesn't. In fact, if you prefer consistency over additional content, I suggest you leave the orb alone. Additional content sounds good. Then I suggest you do not leave the orb alone. That plays into the DLC. The orb is first investigatable once you get, I believe it's 4 music notes. However, we can't even access the DLC until after we've beaten the game, so I have a feeling that was just more there to shout out to new players that the DLC was coming, or that the DLC was coming, period. With that said, the Elemental Skylands are just that, elemental. We're going to be going through 4 islands worth, each with a specific theme. The air one, get this, uses a lot of geysers and it's air themed. There's also going to be water, fire, and I believe the 4th one's earth, but I actually forget what it is off the top of my head because it's the least interesting one of them all. With that said, I will say one thing as well. This is without doubt one of the most annoying areas in the game to miss any power seals in. Because if I'm recalling correctly, if you miss one, you have to backtrack all the way through it, and that sucks. That could be good for time shards, admittedly. But at this point, I'm just getting it to the last 1,000. At that point, it's money sink time. And that was the generator. Shut it down. You need to hit all 4 of the lamps within a certain time span. Every single generator from here on is just going to get more lamps and more complicated positions, so you need to get good at cloud stepping. Mind you, at this point in the game, it should more or less be second nature anyway. I also finally get the return of certain enemies we haven't seen in a while, like those Shisas. They haven't been used in a single area since part 10 or so. I think not Elemental Skylands, Cloud Ruins was the last time we saw them. Thankfully, to compensate, most of the power seals here aren't too hard. They just require some reaction time. Like this one, you need to use the Cloud Siren things from Cloud Ruins. Oh, I missed to get up to it. The only exception is the second one, if I'm recalling the order correctly, which I think is one of, if not the worst power seals in the game. More on that later, though. One thing I really do like about this area, though, is how they consistently focus on one mechanic at a time and do still interesting things with it. The platforming in this game never feels boring, which I think is a good thing for a game that's as relatively long as this. We're 14 parts in, and most of my platformers don't get that long on this channel. In between each of the islands, we do more shooting. Honestly, there's no real strategy to this. Either you can mash and charge, but it's more so for time shards than anything. You especially want to look out for these big double propeller things, because each one of them drops, I believe it's 6 time shards. And with enough of them in the row, you can get some quick cash really quick. That was redundant, but I don't care. Just be careful with your fingers, because mashing this hard can cause some carpal tunnel, and let's be real, none of us like RTIs. No, RSIs. RTIs doesn't exist unless that's some weird STD thing, which it very well could be, knowing my lack of knowledge in the world. Though, at least in the American history angle, that's slowly increasing because of a podcast I'm listening to. The dollop is good fun. Thankfully, none of the shooting sections really overstay their welcome either. Each one of them is about maybe a minute to 2 minutes long, maybe 3 at the longest. And I'm glad that they decided to keep that pace going because that allows us to get right back into the action without too much of a wait. Okay, the Earth Skyland is here. I'll catch you after you disable the shield generator. Good luck. I think Manfred's voice keeps changing, and I can't tell if it's due to my ineptitude to do that voice, or it's because I just don't like the voice I'm giving him. It could be both. That kind of meat-waddy Tristan Taylor, if he had chewing tobacco in his throat during a bridge series voice, is not exactly what I'm fond of doing. I'd rather just have my voice have super strength. I haven't referenced Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge in a while. Despite the fact I actually rewatched the entire thing recently, because I got a friend into it. Some of those episodes are rough early on, not just due to the humor, but because of the editing. Mostly because of the humor and how dated it is. The Earth Skyland's probably the one that's the most reliant on prior, or time stream flipping, because the main gimmick here is the Quilshroom Marsh mud, is what it is. And because that's not that big of a threat to begin with, they just throw in a lot of other things as well. I have a feeling the only reason it's here is because they had the ideas of the water, the fire, and the air one, and they just didn't know what to do for Earth. Reminds me of an old joke from the show Chuck. Earth, Wind, and Fire's fourth member, Rain. God, Chuck was such a good show that went on about a season too long. At least it got an ending, compared to some shows that didn't after 2 seasons, or even 1 season, especially on Fox. Especially when it's sci-fi. I know I could just say Firefly, but like, there's many others beyond that. I mean, come on. I will say, aesthetically speaking, this might be, if not my favorite, like, top 3 worlds looking in the game, because I've always loved floating island kind of feels. It's one of the things I really liked about Owlboy. I forget if Iconoclast did any of that. I don't think it did. Sonic 3 through Angel Island Zone, a lot of others. Just something I always loved being explored. If I recall correctly, there was also a Minecraft mod back when I used to play around called the Aether that played around with that as well. And I hear that that developer may have been hired by the main game staff. I haven't played Minecraft in years. Mostly because I accidentally destroyed my account for reasons I won't go into. One day I might get back into it. Maybe. I got enough relaxing games to play like Harvest Moon and not really Stardew Valley, but I own it and it's okay. Not an Animal Crossing guy, honestly. It's not. When I think of games to relax to, I usually go back to some favorites like Castlevania or Mega Man. Animal Crossing just doesn't. It's weird. Despite being so custom, there's not enough of a goal for me in that beyond the whole pay your debts back thing. It's a bit too real for my tastes too. If I'm gonna play a game to relax, I want there to at least be some sort of goal, like keeping a farm or something along those lines. This portion of the shooting sections especially are very good for time shards, by the way, because you get a lot of those double propeller enemies in a row, meaning you can get probably close to 80 time shards really quickly. Without a doubt, if you weren't close to getting one of the last 2 upgrades before this point, you will be after it. Alright, one of the Skylands next. I'll cut you after you disable the shield generator. Good luck. Alright. So we're coming up on what I think might be the worst power seal in the game. Why? One notable reason. The entire power seal thing is based around crushers. However, the latter 2 aren't too bad. It's the first 3 that suck, because they're increasing in speed, and because we're on floating islands, the screen is constantly moving up and down very slowly, as you can see, meaning that timing based off where it might be on relative to a pixel on my face or the screen is constantly changing, and thus, it's really hard. I do recommend not swimming. You have to use the boost ability to get through this really easily. But I was here for about 10-15 minutes just trying to get this particular power seal. Doesn't help that the nearest checkpoint is 2 screens away, and having to do that over and over again gets tedious. This... It's not even like it's super hard, it's just amount of tedium and... Not randomness, but... odd amount of precision for this point in the game. Because I don't want to say it's pixel perfect, though the third one might very well be for all I know. But it's way too precise for its own good, even for a power seal. Also, I love the Elemental Skylands music. The areas that you do in both 16 and 8-bit, like this, the Sunken Shrine, Riviera Turquoise, so on and so forth, feel like their music fits both sound fonts the most, whereas some of the 8-bit levels don't sound as good in 8-bit, and some of the 16 or the two 16-bit levels don't exactly sound as good in 8. Sometimes it's just a matter of the fact that maybe they designed this song more for both sound fonts in mind. Mind you, I could also be full of shit, and Rainbow Dragon Eyes may have developed both songs simultaneously and to make them fit in the sound fonts. It's just that the sound fonts sometimes aren't as kind to other melodies, or instruments for that matter. I am not a musician. That is my friend's thing. Actually, a couple of friends' things, because I just realized now I know someone who plays the saxophone. Huh. The Water Skyland overall, though, might be my favorite because I've always loved... Like, rivers and waterfalls in the sky is just always cool. Be it Angel Island Zone, the floating island in Final Fantasy III, once you realize it's a floating island, after the first 7 hours, 8 hours, something along those lines. It's just really cool, and let's be real, we all like really cool. I mean, clearly it's why you guys watch. I couldn't keep a straight face through that. I'm sorry. Water Skyland also feels a bit odd in terms of its generator placement because they place it after the second shop, which is, it's the only one of these 4 islands, I believe, to do that, and that just feels a little weird because after the way the other ones are structured is that you take out the generator, then there's the shop checkpoint, and then you go back on the dragon. This one, there's the checkpoint, then the generator, then you get up, then you get on the dragon. I think I just made a complete mess of my words, and usually I had to redo the little bit there because of that, but honestly, I'm kind of interested in seeing how that turned out as it is, so I'm just going to leave it in. Alright, time for the next dragon segment. I think part of the reason the dragon segments don't feel too threatening in terms of the actual danger, despite the amount of terrain increasing, the amount of enemies increasing per time, is that your movement speed's fast enough to outmaneuver quite literally anything, even in the tightest of corridors. And at this point in the game, you're gonna have enough health to survive any trip, more or less. Because by the time you come here, you're probably gonna already have the thing that resets your health to 5 after every checkpoint. And partner that with checkpoints restoring your health anyway, there's very little risk of death. The Messenger is very much, I feel, one of those games that does get easier the further in you get because of your increased mobility and stats and other abilities. And while some areas feel more consistent in difficulty, areas like this, especially these sections with the dragon, do kind of stand out amongst the rest as just being kind of easy, which for all I know could very well be the intention as breathers between intense platforming. But I'm not the developer, so I don't know. Fire Skylands up. I'll catch you after you disable the shield generator. Good luck. But with us landing on the Fire Skyland, I now have enough time shards to get the final upgrade. And I believe I misspoke earlier. I said that it would reduce anything that does 2 damage to 1 damage. It's supposed to turn down any damage from 2 or more to 1, making you even more healthy in the long run. I swear spikes still do 3, but honestly, my mind might be playing tricks on me. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 15, we're going to go finish off the Elemental Skyland, and then start off towards our final music note. See you guys then.